Let's rock and roll. The next question that we have is what's the real truth here? Everybody's been talking about millennials and this home ownership. Some say that they want to buy, some say that they don't want to buy. I was kind of reading some articles. A recent article says millennials are very interested in home ownership, and then an article back in like June says millennials don't have the money for home ownership. What is it?
Well, they're just people. I've always found it interesting. I think millennials have been getting a bad rap, and I have to admit that early on, when the world seemed to be obsessing with what millennials wanted and what they wanted next and how we all had to adapt to them, my initial reaction was, who are these people that are telling me, that are younger than me, that are telling me I have to adapt to them, right? And I realized halfway through that they didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to have all of this lavished upon them, right? I don't remember anybody ever caring. I guess I'm a Generation Xer, right? I don't remember baby boomers bending over backwards to worry about what I was thinking. They didn't care. And I know
That's
the
right.
World War II generation didn't care.
Yep.
World War II generation was like, duck your head and grind it out and stop complaining. Life is full of pain. Just get used to it, right? That was kind of their attitude.
Yep.
They were an awesome generation. And I think I've gotten affinity for millennials because I started realizing, number one, if I examine the people that I actually know that are in that generation, they're hardworking, they are smart, they're ambitious, they care about the world, they care about the country, they've got social mindedness on both sides of social issues, and they didn't ask to be just slathered all over with all of this concern about what they want. It's almost like it's that whole thing of 8th place trophies, nobody loses, run amok. Right? Like I saw something just over the weekend. A friend of mine posted something online about how millennials, they were the generation that grew up watching their heroes like Kobe and LeBron and Michael Jordan, and then they were the first to grow up with iPhones. And I'm like, they didn't do any of those things.
Right.
You really got to give them credit. And then I remembered that wasn't a millennial writing this article. That was somebody older who was once again putting the wonderful little the precious millennials in the center. The millennials didn't ask for that, right? They just want to live their lives. Here's what I think about them. They're going to want to buy homes because buying a home is something that you do when you start thinking about long-term financial gain, right? When you start thinking about getting married, having a family, providing for that family, then owning a home winds up becoming stylish, okay? It winds up becoming interesting to you. Millennials are taking a little longer to get out of the house. A little longer to get married, a little longer to have kids, and they should because they're going to live an extra 15, 20 years. Millennials are going to live to be 100, like as a rule, right? So why in the world would you go out and run off and get married in your early 20s when you're going to live to be 100, right? 80 years, right? So why? So I think you're going to see, if there is any truth to the idea that millennials want to rent because they want the mobile lifestyle, that changes on a dime when all of a sudden you decide to settle down. That's why they call it settling down. So I see a lot of indication millennials want to own homes. I think they just want to do it a little bit later. I'm seeing a lot of indication millennials want to invest in real estate. They're just like any other generation. Some of them are tilted towards the idea of accumulating real estate because they have it built in, it's wired in, and they're just like everybody else. So I just don't see any difference in the way they behave at the end of the day to the way any previous generations. I think they're just waiting a little longer to manifest it.
I mean, I'm like your super senior millennial, right? So I have a tough time identifying with those that are true millennials. I'm always interested in investing, love home ownership, makes sense to me. But at the end of the day, they're definitely people. I think at the end of the day, everybody wants a house. Everybody wants a home that they can call their own. And it might take a little bit longer, but it's not like it's never going to happen. So I think that can sometimes be skewed in the eyes of the beholder. And it's kind of...
There's just a lot of fake going on out there now. I'll tell you something. I'm going to put... We talked earlier in the show here about bad analysis of housing stats. I'm watching all month long bad analysis of politics. I unplugged it. I'm tired of watching because I found that the analysts don't really know anything except to fan everybody's anger and madness. And I think the hyper-analysis of millennial behavior is just along the same lines. It's a topic that people want to overtalk. And again, when I compared what I read and watch and hear about millennials to the millennials that I actually know and the way that they are, it's different. They're just people. They don't all have man buns, Okay, they don't all have these
Greg,
crazy
I have a
Taliban
man
beards.
bun, okay? Like, I have a man bun, and it is the most amazing thing ever.
Don't you get a headache from all that tightness in the top of your head?
I mean, that's why you meditate, Greg.
Or is that
That's
your big brain trying to bust out? Is that what that is? Okay.
that's pretty much what it is. All right.
Millennials are awesome. They're good. There are good ones. There are lousy ones. There are motivated ones. There are unmotivated ones. The ones that I'm hiring, I think, are awesome. The ones that are in my family are awesome. I don't know where the spoiled millennials are. I don't see them day to day. I'm very confident and looking forward to what they all do with the world going forward.
You don't see them because they're in the basement, Greg. That's where they are.
Back to Fortnite again. Okay.
It's all about that Fortnite game, man. I don't know how that works. All right, next question for you. We have maybe about 2 minutes before we have to end the show. What's the best way to get started out investing in either flips or real estate rentals? I'm thinking about investing in the Southeast. I like the Georgia and Florida markets. Are those markets that I need to consider, or should I look at other markets?
Yeah, for sure. The best way to get started is to cut your expenses and start saving money. Do not jump into your first investment unless you're putting down at least 25 or 30% as a down payment. I'm not a big flips guy. I don't see this as something that's a flip business. Only 20% of all the investments that happen every year are flips. Although 90% of all the talk on the subject of real estate focuses on flips. If you like Georgia and Florida, if you're from there, that's what I would ask the person asking the question of where they're from. Because most people like the idea of buying in a place they're familiar. Okay, so if you live there, buying near where you live is a good idea because there's a comfort zone there. If something happens that changes the dynamic of the market, you're going to know about it as a resident of the area. If you live in New Jersey and you're nowhere near the South, picking a place where you've got family and you've got some familiarity, or where you might want to go on vacation so you can go and visit your neighborhoods that you own property when you go down on vacation to visit. Mm-hmm. I love the Southeast. The population is moving there. And just more important than anything else is just be patient. Figure the first time you put $10 in a coffee can and start saving it for your down payment, and the first time you start researching it, listening to shows like this, going to places like ownamerica.com and other websites and learning the fundamentals of the market and crunching numbers and building your fantasy portfolio before you build your actual portfolio. Consider that the day you began. The day you buy your first property is not the day you started. The day you started planning it is the day you started. That mindset of, I've already begun, will take some of the urgency out of it and will make it so that you will avoid jumping in too soon. Wait until you know whatever buy you make, you can hang on to for the long term. Don't take too many risks if you don't have to.
Yeah, I agree with the risk part. I mean, I think there's a difference between market risk and operational risk. And the market risk, that's always going to be there. You just have to you have to surround yourself with people that know what they're talking about. Like you said, listen to this show just because you want to hear my voice every day. I think the operational risk is you yourself as the X factor in the market. The more inexperience you have, the higher your operational risk. But the benefit that you have is finding somebody in the space, finding a mentor that's been there, that's done that. Whether it's Florida, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Washington, New York, it doesn't matter. Somebody that's been there, that's done that, that can guide you along the way. And all of a sudden, that operational risk, your own inherent operational risk, decreases just by surrounding yourself with the right people. So taking that first step, taking the action is awesome. Learning, absorbing information that you can utilize immediately is awesome. And having somebody on your team that just knows that next step intuitively so you can learn from this person is critical.